This week on Dude Stuff.
What's going on, guys? Steve from Dude Stuff. So today we're going to be telling you exactly how to convert your mountain bike into an e-bike in 2023. Now today's video I'm going to be using the brand new KIRBEBIKE.com 2000 watt kit with the new sine wave controller, upgraded 20 amp hour battery. I'll leave the link in the description so you can look to purchase this kit for your own bike. Laid out on the floor, it's not absolutely everything, but it's the main components that make up putting an e-bike together minus a few wires. So you've got the 2000 watt motor wheel with the MTX rim on the far right, double walled rim, it's really good, always get my stuff from KIRBEBIKE.com. You've got the battery, which is 52 volt, which is a lot faster, it gives you more speed than a 48 volt or a 36. 20 amp hours. 20 amp hours, the amp hour is the range. If you look on some websites and you've only got 9 amp hours or 13 amp hours, 20 is obviously a lot more. Don't ask me what range you'll get because it's like a car, it depends how you ride it, depends if depends if you pedal, depends if you're hard on the throttle, depends if it's windy, depends how much you weigh, depends whether it's hilly. There's so many factors. People that give a range are just talking out their backsides most of the time, so take my word for it, 20 amp hours is a spot on range. Compare it to other bikes. Also, it's got good quality cells. You've got LG, genuine LG cells in this battery on the floor. That's what you want. You want decent quality, something that's not going to set fire and it's not going to, have fake cells in it. Anyway, moving on, you've got the tiny new sine wave controller, which gives a much quieter, smoother throttle response. You barely hear the kit. It's pretty amazing. And the best feature for me, it stays cool and it takes up less room. So the new controller makes it a lot easier. With the old controller it was quite difficult to fit on medium and smaller frames, but hopefully this is a medium bike as well, guys. The bike I'm doing today, as you see, is a white hardtail mountain bike and it's got a medium size frame, 27.5 wheels, so it's not a huge bike, it's an average medium bike, which leads me on to the other thing. Just before we get started, we will get cracking. A lot of people message me, I don't have the time to answer everyone's emails saying, will this fit my bike? I'm going to break this down in basic terms now. The majority of aluminium mountain bikes, the kit will go on. With a lot older 26 inch or a hybrid, the chances are the dropouts are not going to be quite wide enough. You can prise them open a bit. I don't recommend it, but I'll do it myself. But if you're basing this on a modern mountain bike, 27 inch wheel or 29 inch wheel, if it's an aluminium frame, there's a very good chance it's going to fit. What you want to watch out for, you haven't got a carbon frame. With carbon frame mountain bikes, you've got a closed hole dropout with an axle that goes through. There's no slot. If you've got what they call a closed dropout, then the kit's not going to work. So as long as your bike is a modern hardtail mountain bike, it will fit. It's very, very unlikely it won't fit. The dropouts, which is the space in between where the wheel slots in the frame, needs to be 145mm. The motor wheel is approximately 140mm, but you need to account for adding spacers onto the wheel as well, okay? As you see from my channel, I've bought and I've done every single major brand, Specialized, White, the list goes on. I've done pretty much every brand. I've managed to make it fit all of them. You've got to bear in mind DIY e-bikes is DIY, so you might have to adjust spacers and use your common sense and brains. If you're lacking in that department, I suggest getting someone else to do it or take it to a bike shop, but most people will not have an issue figuring it out just using common sense. Follow what I'm about to tell you on this video, okay? One of the things that I do look out for when buying a mountain bike is checking how many speed gears on the cassette at the back of the wheel, okay? So you sometimes have 7, 8, 9, 10 or 11 speed, sometimes higher on modern mountain bikes. With the Andy Kirby kit, if you ordered a 7 speed, it comes with a freewheel. So the back wheel cassettes, the gears, can be either freewheel or cassette. Most mountain bikes, most common is cassette. Now if it's a 7 speed, you'll be sent a freewheel. So bear that in mind if you want to switch your own cassette over. You can use the one that comes with the kit, but like on this bike, it's all grey and black, and I've probably got a slightly better branded one on the bike, so I'm going to transfer that over. So the thing to bear in mind is 7 speed will be freewheel, 8, 9 and 10 speed will be cassette, and your bike is most likely to be cassette if you want to switch it over. If you've got more than 10 speed, say for instance you've got an 11 speed, it doesn't stop you fitting the kit, but you can't use all the gears. You can either do it yourself or take it to a bike shop and you can block off the 11th gear at the derailleur. I don't see it being an issue. The kit's got so much power, you're not going to need every single gear. Totally your choice. One other last question that people ask quite a bit, what else do I need to convert the bike? So you've got your mountain bike, you bought your kit from KIRBEBIKE.com or a reputable brand. I recommend KIRBEBIKE, but get it from wherever you want. So what do you need additionally to fit in the kit? Not really much at all. So you're going to be using the inner tube and tyre off of your bike. Obviously if it's old, might be a good time to replace it. So we'll be transferring the inner tube and tyre onto the new motor wheel off the existing donor bike back wheel. You're going to need the brake disc off of your bike. Now the most common is a 6-bolt pattern of 6 Allen bolts or star bolts. Slightly more rare you get a centre lock disc with just one locking nut in the middle. So look at your brake disc. If it's got 6 bolts around the edge, it will transfer straight over onto the electric hub motor, okay? Obviously if you've got centre lock, you're just going to have to check out, it'll be stamped on your disc or etched on it, what millimetre size diameter it is, and get a centre bolt that size. But for most people the 6-bolt will transfer straight over. So there's not really anything you need to fit the kit, other than I would suggest buying a large pack of cable ties off Amazon or somewhere. You get a few with the kit, but I always use a lot more, keeps it tidier. You know, this kit's going to be a nice fresh install, really tidy, a lot more discreet than them cheap ugly ones with a big frame triangle battery bags with all the velcro straps. We don't want any of that. We want a high quality kit, nice fresh tidy install, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to be telling you, keep watching, because we're about to get started, but later in the video I'm going to tell you how to win this actual e-bike for just £2, alright? So keep watching, and some lucky subscriber is going to take this bike, this actual build. So let's get straight into it. Right, so the first thing we do is turn the bike upside down. Now I never build these in a bike stand with the bike the right way up. The dropout slot is normally straight down, so you've got gravity on your side when you put the new wheel in for the axle to slot down into the dropout nicely. If you're trying to pull the wheel up and you're tightening the bolt and it just drops a little bit, main safety feature on these bikes is making sure the back wheel is in super snug. So I recommend getting the bike placed upside down and doing it upside down to get the wheel in, then we'll flip it up the right way and do the rest of it the right way up. But to start off with, we're going to start with the back wheel first. Bike's upside down, simple quick release, flip the lever, spin it around a few times, don't have to undo it the whole way, and probably helps if you change into a more suitable gear before removing it, but simple as that, wheel out. So the majority of most modern mountain bikes have a quick release skewer, just flip the lever, spin it a few times, wheel off. Very simple. Now we're just going to change the tyre over, and also I'm going to change the cassette. Right, so this is a 2x9 speed, so the rear cassette's 9 speed, meaning that I would have needed to order the KIRBEBIKE with a cassette, 8-speed cassette, 9-speed cassette. I'm going to switch it over because I prefer the black one. So the back wheel's off. We are now going to just remove the tyre, remove the inner tube. I'm going to switch over the cassette to the one that's on this bike because it's a black Shimano. The ones that come in the kit are, you know, they do the job perfectly fine, but they're a little bit cheaper. I'm going to use the branded black Shimano, switch them over, switch the tyre and inner tube over, and also take the brake disc off. Good thing worth mentioning, also check the direction. You don't want to do all of this and have to remove the wheel again, so check the tyre direction. This is from the brake disc side, and on this one it is anti-clockwise from the disc. It's probably the same on the majority of bikes, but always check. You don't have your tread pattern running the wrong way. But if you can see a little logo here with an arrow pointing, take a note of that. So brake disc side anti-clockwise, which means also you can make sure it's clockwise from the opposite side, from the cassette side. Just make a note of it. It just makes your life a bit easier and got to take it all off doing all your hard work. Just going to buzz the cassette off of this. You're going to need, if you're doing this yourself, you're going to need this chain whip tool and this cassette or freewheel tool, depending on which you've got. Do it by hand after that. That should be off now. Carefully squeeze this together as it comes off so the gears don't come apart. So the cassette will be slotted and you have one thinner slot, so you need to line it up when you put it back on. This one's hand tight because it's brand new. Would have tightened itself up by just pedaling it if you left it on, but Just makes it easier for us. Out with the old on the new motor wheel, and we've got the thinner slot here. Have a look underneath where the thinner slot is. Just leaves around about here. Just move it around carefully until it sinks all the way down. Tighten the locking ring a little bit by hand. Slip your cassette tool in. Also, little tip, when it's started to get tight, give it a little move, see if there's any play. Very occasionally you might need to add a sort of a spacer of some kind, but it's pretty rare to need to do that, to be honest. Yeah, there's no movement in that. No movement at all in that cassette. Here's the old one that come with a kit. Here's the Shimano HG cassette that you get with the bike I'm fitting it to. I think it looks better. You don't have to do that, but that's done. Whilst we're here, moving on to the brake disc, you've got this little plastic spacer that sits behind these, is it star bolts? Yeah, star bolts. So I'll show you when I get it off, but I always remove this. When removing these star bolts, they round off pretty easy in my experience. You want to apply a decent amount of downwards pressure as you undo it, because once they start rounding off you'll end up with a drill, which I've done on several occasions. Push down anti-clockwise, just take the initial bite off the bolt. It might be even harder on the bike that you've got, especially if it's used. Definitely put some downward pressure on, and then you can just spin off these bolts. Right, last bolt out. This is where we take this horrible spacer off. You know, you need to work it over the cable. Might help to take the plastic nut off, the plastic nut cover. Give yourself a bit more room to work it over there. Take it all the way over the cable, and there we go. Work it gently over the plugs, and this is the part we remove. Right, so the reason I remove these is I find it makes the alignment of the caliper and the brake disc go horribly wrong, and nobody wants that. Plus you don't really need a plastic, which is not exactly a durable material, governing your brake disc fitment. So always remove this, and you can see from this what a 6-bolt disc pattern looks like. Just for the holes of this, you've got these little bolts that go in. You can quite clearly see from that that's a 6-bolt pattern, but you don't want this spacer that comes with the kit, so remove that. Right, so I've just repeated the process of taking, same way I took the spacer off here, I undid the same 6 bolts, and I've got the disc from the donor bike to go onto the new hub wheel. You will see, obviously, facing out, you want these numbers that are etched in the brake disc facing outwards, and also if you ever need to know your disc size, it should be written in there in millimetres, like 160, 180, 203, etc, etc. So take your disc, poke your motor cables through the hole, try not to touch the outside to prevent brake squill, which is unfortunately something inevitable and annoying sometimes on a conversion, and then just work it over. Get it in place so it roughly lines up. We're just going to put the bolts back in here. You can be posh and put a bit of Loctite thread on there, but as long as you do it up it should be fine if you do it up fairly firm. I'm going to tighten these up in a kind of opposite pattern just to spread the load evenly. I'm just going to locate all the holes so they line up by putting every single bolt in. Do all the bolts up. Do 2 opposite each other first of all, but don't do it up super tight. Just sort of hand tight, and then pick another 2, do them up opposite each other. It just makes sure that it doesn't, you know, offset the disc with uneven pressure. Gives all the bolts a chance to kind of pull the disc in nice and square. Right, so now we just begin doing them up nice and tight. Remember, again, press down firmly. You don't want it to slip and round these little star bolts off, because they're not fun to get out when they're rounded. Something worth pointing out as well, you've also got a directional arrow on the brake disc. As long as you fit this the right way round, and if you forget which direction your tyre goes, you can always refer to the brake disc, but that's like always best to go with the first option of checking it on the tyre before you remove it. Right, so brake disc is on, gear cassette is fitted. Now all we need to do is put the tyre and inner tube on, and I'm sure the majority of you on here can do that. So 3, 2, 1. The wheel is done. It's fully built up. We've changed over the cassette, we've changed over the brake disc, and we've put the inner tube and tyre on. This is now ready to get fitted to the bike here. So this is the side here done with the cassette fitted, and on this side the brake disc is all fitted. So now we've got to do is sort out getting it on the bike, which is what I'm going to show you next. Right, before we fit the wheel on, since I'm doing it on my own to make life easier on myself, I'm removing the brake caliper from the frame. That way you haven't got to worry about, you know, lining the disc up with the pads, because there's enough stuff to contend with making sure the wheel clears of the derailleur. So this will make life easier if you're doing this on your own. You don't have to, but it just makes it a bit easier. So you remove the two M5 bolts from here and here, which go into the frame here. Drop that down out the way, simple as that. A couple of Allen bolts, and that will make life a lot easier when you go to fit it. You can cable tie it out the way if you want to the frame. I think that should be alright. Right guys, we're going to talk about washers next, and every bike's going to be different, and I'll go into that and what you might have to change. But this is a good place to start, and how I start all of my conversions. And obviously you make adaptations, which I'll show you in a minute. You might need to, but you might find this works spot on. So you get various types of washers, and obviously a nut which has got a, you know, it's got a bit which bites into and locks onto the frame, so that's good. This washer here has got like a little notch in it. You put that little notch on so it slots into there and locks in there, and that will help with it not turning. You know, it stops the washer from rotating, keeps the axle from rotating, just helps to lock it all into place. So we fit that onto the axle facing outwards and drop it in, so that locks into the dropout. Right, we're going to start with the spacers on the cassette side. So I'm going to start dropping in the smaller diameter washers, because what you'll find with bigger diameters, they'll clamp down on the cassette, and you won't be able to, like, when you bolt it to the frame, it will literally lock it up so it can't spin. So you want the smaller diameter spacers in here, and you'll fit them. You'll keep fitting these washers so they protrude past the height of the cassette. You want them just higher past the height of the cassette. Okay, we've got a couple of washers on there which now just about step over the height. These washers just about step down from the height of the onto the cassette. And then I'm going to finish it off with a locking washer. Before I put the locking washer on, because that's got to drop down into the frame, I need to make sure it's at the top, not at the bottom. We need to establish which direction the cable is going to run. So with the bike being in that direction, I don't want the cable exiting out of the back of the wheel like this, because it's a slotted axle. It can either go this way round, or it can go this way round. I want it this way, so the cable exits along the frame this way, not out the back. So with that said, we're going to want this locking spacer with the notch facing outwards to lock into the frame this side, and the same the other side. Slot that on there, and that should be good to go. Right, bringing the wheel round, making sure obviously your cassette is on the same side as your derailleur, and your disc is on the same side as the disc is on the same side as where you've taken off the caliper. We are gonna lift it up and try and get it near to the slots, but you might have to at the same time pull the derailleur back and drop it into this part of the chain only. And again, the cable is exiting this way down the frame, so we can run it down the frame. You don't want it going, you don't want the cable exiting out the hub in the wrong direction. So this is a bit tricky, but I'm just going to lift it up. Before doing it, I can mention as well, obviously if you want to make adjustments on your derailleur so it moves in or out to give you more space, you can adjust the gears for the back cassette, and you can bring the radiator in or out to give you better access. So I'm going to start by lifting up the top chain over, and then you need to rotate the wheel so the slot is going to line up. So sorry, the slot of the dropout is going to line up with the axle slot. Ooh. Mind your fingers, guys. Now you're going to be very careful with your hands, but I tend to sort of grab hold of the frame with my fingers and push the spacers inside the frame. I just need to line it up the other side a bit. So you can see the axle's over here. So I'm going to try and just jangle it over a little bit. I need to rotate the wheel. Now all I need to do, watch your fingers, so I might do a little bit one side, that washer's just catching, but then I won't do the whole one side at a time because you won't have enough movement to drop the other side in. So now this side's quite close but not close enough. So see what I mean, I grab the frame and I push the hub motor, jiggle it a bit each side. That still needs to come down quite a bit. That's going in. I'm just going to do the other side a bit more. And it is a case just working your way from one side to the other. You can see that's starting to go down in the slot. It's not 100% all the way yet. What could be helpful at this stage is bringing the mallet in, giving it a little bit of a tap. Sometimes you need to just rotate the wheel a little bit to get the axle to line up with the slot. There we go. A little bit of patience. Now as you can see, the locking washer is sitting within the frame. The top of the axle is, the top of the flat bit of the axle here is well below the top of the frame dropout. And as you can see underneath, you don't want a huge gap. There should be next to no gap at the underside of the axle at the bottom of the slot. It's probably the most important thing out of the entire build, is making sure a kit of this sort of spec and speed and power and torque is seated fully in the dropouts. That is what you want to take the most time with, making sure it's fully down. Even when you think it's fully down, a couple of taps with a rubber mallet. You can see why you don't want to do this the right way up and have to lift the wheel into the dropouts, because you want gravity working on your side with this one. As you can see on this side, the axle's looking lovely in that dropout, and from underneath there's literally next to no gap. So at this point we're happy with the dropouts, and we can move into refitting the brake caliper, fitting the torque arm, and then finally fitting the wheel nuts in place, and then we are close to being done with the back wheel. I had to take the wheel off again and fit this gold spacer here because the disc was rubbing on the frame on the inside. This is just what you have to do sometimes. I've got the gold washer now and the locking torque washer type thing. So that's given me enough clearance down here, and you do have to inspect this whole area. For instance, this gap between the electric hub motor and the caliper, it doesn't need to be a big gap or clearance, but there needs to be daylight. You can see there's a little bit of daylight between that caliper. That's what you need, that's what you want. You've got a little bit of gap between the inside of the frame, and everything seems to have clearance now. So always after you fit the wheel into the dropouts, check the gaps with everything, check nothing's not rubbing. Right guys, I've already fitted the torque arm, and I did explain as I was doing it, but unfortunately the noise of the neighbour strimming their lawn and trying to murder their children, by the sounds of it, literally ruined the whole clip. So I've got all the main components, the Jubilee clip or hose clamp as Americans call it, and the two main arms of the torque arm. The first thing you'll fit is this part to the axle, which is slotted. I normally rotate that so the hole is protruding somewhere near towards the back of the bike, because then I normally come back with the arm towards the frame. So what you want to end up with is these two parts together. You want to have enough room when you do the angle of this to have the nut clamped down on this back plate. You don't want to close that angle up enough so the nut catches on this upper part, because it's not going to be a very sort of safe fitment. So when you come to fitting this part for the you know, that I've done here for the Jubilee clip, you're looking to either rest the torque arm up against the frame here or here, and then run the Jubilee clip either around the frame, or in this case I've got a slot and I've managed to fix it here. It clears all the brake disc. One final thing I'll point out, you get a nut to go on the back and an Allen head key there. Now don't fit the Allen head from the back and then put the bolt on the front, because you won't be able to get a Allen wrench behind between the discs. There's not enough space. So put this Allen bolt in from the front, put the nut on the back, and then you can easily get a pair of pliers or a small spanner behind to tighten it up. But that is pretty much the torque arm fitted. Right, take your 18mm spanner like a grown-up instead of the good old days when I used to use an adjustable spanner. Using the correct size spanner, if you've got one to hand. Finish off with this little rubber cap, make sure both sides the bolts are done up tight, and then we're going to flip the bike over. Right guys, if you got this far, give yourselves a pat on the back. You've done really well. That's, in my eyes, one of the hardest bits of the kit, is getting the back wheel fitted on nicely. So thumbs up, well done. Make yourself a cup of tea if you want at this point, crack open a beer, although it's probably not a good idea if you're building an e-bike. Yeah, onwards and upwards with the rest of the kit. I've made an executive decision. I'm going to remove the MTX rim decals on this particular build. I think it'll add to the kind of stealthy grey and black look that I think this bike's got. I think that looks way fresher. Certain bikes I think it looks cool, the MTX stickers, but on this particular one I think it looks better without. Right, here we have the 52 volt KIRBEBIKE battery. Now these have a little locking system on the base. You undo the key here, one way locks it, the other way lets it slide out that way. Probably could have demonstrated that with a little bit more finesse. Let's try that again. Battery just slides out like so. So when this base plate is on the bike, you can mount the battery and slide it up into position. Okay, there's your base plate. Got your lock on your battery. As you can see here, you turn the key, this little metal pin, I don't know if you can see the little metal pin comes in and out. So that's in the lock position, that's unlocked. Right, bearing in mind you want the cable at the bottom, not at the top, it's going to be much tidier here. You want enough space that the battery don't hit the top triangle of the frame here when you put it on. You want to make sure there's enough room that it's not hitting that tube once the battery's on. So somewhere in the middle. You can do it hand tight and then check after and move it if necessary. I'm going to go probably down a bit to the next slot. Now I'm just going to nick these up a bit to do a test fit, make sure I like the battery fitment, make sure I've got space for the controller. We can nick these up super tight once we're happy with the battery fitment, but that's enough to keep that in place, right? So make sure your locking pin's in, it's unlocked. So you're going to put it slightly up from parallel, it'll drop in and then click it back into place. Now obviously that's got plenty of clearance there, enough clearance to pull it off the bike. Oh, if I can get it off. It's got enough clearance to take it off, enough clearance to put it on, it's got clearance here. The only thing I might double check is space for the controller. I've only fitted 2 or 3 of these so far, these brand new sine wave controllers, and like I said before, they're great because they're a lot more compact. And usually I would mount them in this location, but I think what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to mount it up here like this. Now there's a few reasons for that. One is there's a little cable wrap tidy thing which I'm going to put in this area here. So this will go down to the battery cables. Oh, let's get that out of there. All these cables are going to meet here, this end, and then the cables going off to the handlebars is going to be going up the frame in the correct direction up that way. So that kind of makes sense to me. It gives you a little bit of space here for the cable tied in, And it's not, I don't think it'd be too unattractive having a couple of small cable ties. It's only light. We're going to mount that there. So go tight but not crazy. You don't want to snap off any bolts or break any threads, but you want it nice and secure. Another thing, if you go really crazy, it can warp the shape of the battery tray and then you have trouble sliding the battery on. If you make it so tight, it actually bends into a curve where it's under so much pressure. Close the charge port. Battery's gone, battery's on, battery's a good one. Right, let's do some cable management now. All looks a bit of a mess at the moment, but it's not. We're going to move the battery one out the way. This is the cable, the hall sensor cables and the phase cables that come from the back wheel we fitted earlier to the crank. I'm going to pull them up tight around the crank and join it with a battery cable, and we're going to cable tie it low on that frame triangle seat post part of the frame, and just get it sort of locked into place. Take the tension of the crank so that's out of the way of any moving components. I just want to point out as well, with the old kits you had ring terminals which when they touch caused e-braking before it was fitted, and you know, not problems as such, it did the job, but you've got this XT type connector on here now. You've got this yellow triangular XT, I think it is, connector. Much better, takes up way less room, way less fiddly a thing. It's just a push fit instead of a little clunky yellow and white junction box. It did the job, but this is a nice big improvement in my eyes. So I'm just going to zip up and do this section of the cables. I'm going to join these two together with one cable to, you know, keep it looking as tidy as possible. So I'm just going to come around the frame and I'm happy with that. I'm going to put a second one in just to kind of get the cables going in the direction I want them. So all the cables coming up for the wheel are pulled around the crank, and once I've buzzed the ends of these zip ties off, it'll all start becoming sort of super tidy. With this new controller, you've got coming out of one side, you've got your battery XC connector, your triangular XC connector for the phase and hub motor hall sensors, and on this end that's going to be your pedal assist with the yellow one, which I'm not fitting. I'll explain reasons why in a moment. And that's your main, this is your main waterproof connector for everything on the handlebars, throttle and display. So it makes sense for this to be fitted with the ones that are handlebars in this direction going forwards on the bike, and the ones going towards the battery, obviously where the battery is. So that's what we're going to do now. Right, what I'm doing, you could dampen any vibrations. I'm not sure if there will be any by putting some foam double-sided tape in here if you really want. I'm not going to bother, I think it'll be pretty snug. You've got a couple of notches on this that will sit in a tube and keep it snug and tight. I don't think you'll get any rattles, but there's some little holes in the base. I'm going to attach this with cable ties. My OCD's stopping me from doing 3 because of the hole spacing. I'm going to go with 4. Utilise all the holes every time, that's what I say. Unfortunately it's going around the frame, but it is what it is. I still think it's going to look better than 99% of the frame triangle bag conversions I see out there. Yeah, something like that. I think that looks quite good. Them cables can go up that direction. Now everything here is just going to plug in and connect together, so I might as well just do that straight away now. Make sure your battery's off for the moment. Plug in your XC60 battery cable, plug in your motor wheel cables. You've got your triangular one, it's got a little notch out that you've got to line up, so it only goes on one way, and this one's got a little white tab that you might need to push down, and that snaps into place. This section just needs tidying up now, and there's a new thing with a KIRBEBIKE kit which I'm going to show you. Right, this is what you get with the new Andy Kirby kit. It is called the ECMF. I have absolutely no idea why they've called it the ECMF. Catchy, isn't it? Basically it's a cable wrap. I don't know why they just call it a flipping cable wrap, but it's got Velcro one side, or obviously on the other side as well, and you can just fold it round and make a little cable tidy tube, which is not 100% waterproof, but it, you know, they obviously designed it in a way where it's not gonna be too much of an issue. It should do the job. If I was being really fussy, I might put some black tape around here to hide that red cable, and I'm just going to cable tie all this stuff together so it fits nicely in this wrap. I want to fold these cables into a kind of tight as possible shape to fit within that tube, a kind of uniform shape here, and I'm going to cable tie these to make life easier for me before I put them in that cable wrap, the ECMF. Any ideas what ECMF stands for? You don't want to go crazy and bend the cables and damage them, but you want to get them fairly compact. And maybe at this point we can have a little test fit, see how this starts to look. So I'm going to slide this down the back. Going to have a little fiddle with that at the end, but I'm pretty happy with that. The battery's going to slide off nice and easy. I can poke the odd cables in, straighten it up a little bit here and there. But for the best part, I think that is rather neat and tidy. What do you think, guys? I think that's a nice tidy install of sine wave controller and high quality battery. So now we're going to work the cables up here and mount everything on the handlebars, and then we are pretty much done. Right, we are getting there now, guys. We're very close to the final stages. It's all downhill, easy sailing from here. Now, from this controller you've got these two cables coming out. The yellow one is for a throttle or pedal sensor, but this one is actually for a pedal sensor. Now, the reason that I don't fit pedal sensors, I come from a world of riding motocross bikes and motorbikes, and I don't feel like I need the engine to cut out on a motorbike when I pull the brake. I get why some people might accidentally hit the throttle at a junction and pull out on the road, but that's just stupidity. Exactly the same on a moped. You're not going to accidentally lean on the handlebars and rev the throttle sitting at a T-junction, are you? You know, it's just, not only that, certain things on a motorbike going around bends, it's better to control to feather the brake whilst entering a bend with a throttle on a little bit, things like that. I personally find it better control to be able to use the throttle and brakes at the same time. Personal preference. If you want to fit the brake sensors or the pedal assist, totally down to you. Again, the pedal assist for me tends to give 100% throttle when you have more control with an actual twist throttle or a thumb throttle. I don't want to be going for a little turnstile, pedal a little bit and the bike lurches forward, you know, and makes the front wheel skid out. I think they're safer to have throttles. Leave it down to you and your own country's laws to decide what to fit. Use your own common sense and stick to whatever laws. Right, anyway, so this is the waterproof connector that joins to the controller that I just showed behind you. And on the end you've got these, I think they're high go. You've got two red ones for the brake sensors, so we're not going to be using them, and that leaves you with a yellow waterproof connector that is for the throttle. The kit cup will come with a thumb throttle, I believe. I've got a full twist throttle sitting in the shed, so I'm just going to be using that today, but it's exactly the same. You just fit it to the handlebars, take the grip off, fit it on the same, and obviously it goes between the brake lever and the hand grip, but for today's one, exactly the same style plug. Chances are if you go on Amazon you want to pick a different style throttle anywhere, or eBay, wherever, as long as you've got this yellow high go, the chances are it'll work. And the green one with the green colour inside is for the display, and that is it. That is all that's left to fit, so let's get cracking. I'm just going to connect this to the controller and run it along the last part of the frame triangle with some sticky pads that I sourced, some cable tidy pads. And then from there we're going to get the throttle and screen on, and the bike is done. So let's go for it. There's a couple of arrows on these guys. There's the arrow, and there's the arrow. Push it all the way until it clicks, and since we're not using this I'm just going to cable tie it up, tie it out the way against the cable for tidiness sake. Might even go overkill here, keep it tidy. This is why I say get loads of cable tidies, so you can just tidy stuff up until your heart's content. There we go, guys. Cables are super tidy, if I do say so myself, along here. And feed this up to the handlebar area. Let's get a display fitted and throttle. Right, this is the end of the cable that's connected to the controller. I've just run it up to the handlebars, and we're about to fit the display. Now, I am product testing for some of the products and helping, you know, pick out and test what's good and what's not. I don't think this is exactly, it looks very similar. It's not quite exactly the one that I think they send with the kit. I'll show you on my chopper the display that I think you'll get. It's very similar, just different colour. But it's exactly the same plugs. That's your green HiGo connector plugged into the display and a separate on button. And all it is some Allen keys or a nut and bolt. And you're literally just screwing them into your desired location on the handlebars. So nothing too exciting. Don't drop them bolts on your, on your decking and lose them. Be careful when fitting them, but other than that, we are good to go. So I'm just going to put these clips over. Not sure if I've got that the right way around. It don't hurt to plug things in and turn it on and test it. Yeah, that is the right way around. Right, let's turn that off. Right, let's get these nuts and bolts on and get out for a ride. Very simple and straightforward, guys. Just literally a little nut and a little bolt. You get a couple of little rubber washers in there if your handlebar diameter is small, but on most mountain bikes it should fit perfectly. Right, normally you get a thumb throttle. If you get a thumb throttle, slide the grip off, mount it between the grip and the brake, or between the grape. It's been a long day. Fit the throttle between the brake and the gears. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is, it's focused on it now. Can't get my camera to focus. You want the little yellow HiGo connector. Whatever throttle you got, it's literally just one plug. So put whatever throttle you want on it, basically. Thumb throttle, twist throttle, no throttle. Your choice. I want to get this on and go for a ride. Oh, I still haven't put the on button on, but that's just one bolt. We'll do that in a sec. I'm just getting a little bit excited now. Anyone that needs one right hand grip for a white lock on, write to me at PO Box Dude Stuff. It's been a long day. I'm starting to lose the plot now. Just got one little grub screw on this, nice and easy. Check that throttle action. Find your cable, yellow to yellow. There's a little arrow marked on the connector. If you're under 40 years old, you could probably read it without reading glasses. So there we go. All I've got to do is undo the bolts, fit the power button. And like I said, this power button might be slightly different. I think the kit on my gold chopper, which I'll show you in a bit, is the one that they send with the kit. I think this was the display KIRBEBIKE sent me to test out a couple of months ago. But I had so many projects on the go, it got kind of lost in the workshop. And it's all the same, all does the same job, all does the same functions. So really self-explanatory on this one, guys. It's just literally like a little tiny Allen bolt or something. Nobody's going to struggle to figure this out. If I can fit this, you can definitely fit it. Right, that should turn on at this stage, which it does. And the only thing I need to do is do something with these cables a little bit nicer. There's not a lot. I think I'm just going to bunch them up with a cable tie. Oh yes, getting excited for the test ride now. I think we are done. Let's see if it works. Ha ha ha! Right guys, it's now the next day. I've run out of daylight for test riding the bike, but I've had a couple of goes on it and it rides absolutely spot on. It is so smooth, fast. Right, we're going to do a high speed test run, see whether this thing can do 15 miles an hour. Here we go. Flat out. 5 mile an hour. 10. Wow. 15. Ah, my God, 15 is so fast. Oh, I've got to slow down. It's really scary going 15 miles an hour. Terrifying. Yeah, I don't think I don't think anyone's going to have any complaints with speed on this. 15 mile an hour is, you know, incredibly fast. Honestly, the ride's, it's got to be one of the best conversions I've done. It's so smooth. This white, it's just a solid bike to have done this conversion on. The ride's beautiful. It's quite a looker as well, if I do say so myself. It's a good looking bike. Yeah, this is an absolute joy to ride. One of my subscribers is going to be absolutely over the moon with this. I thought for a moment that the new kit might not have been quite as talky as the old square wave controller, but yeah, I don't think that's the case at all. Just can't hear the motor. It's really nice, the sine wave. Really responsive as well. If you want to support the channel, there's several ways to do that. Obviously you can enter the raffle, which helps support the channel. PayPal donations if you found the video useful or optional. Any money I make on this channel just goes into growing the channel and upgrading the projects and, you know, my tools and equipment. The channel's still definitely growing, and every single penny I make I spend on growing the channel further. If anyone wants to help contribute towards that, feel free to do so. Check out the link in the description for this actual e-bike. You can win this for £2. Someone is going to be absolutely chuffed with this for that money. Check out KIRBEBIKE.com for the DIY e-bike kits, link in the video description. Also, KIRBEBIKE are giving a special discount code for Dude Stuff followers and viewers. Going to leave that in the video description so you can get money off your e-bike kit. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and supporting the channel, and I'll see you guys in the video soon. Take it easy.